Hello, and today we're building some pedal boards for some TPS viewers who also happen to be frontline workers. Hello and welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello. Right, plexiglass separation screen for Daniel and I, which is particularly appropriate today's show. This is the first day we've come back into the studio and we're just feeling it out with starting to film again, just going very slowly after the COVID-19 lockdown, carefully practicing social distancing measures. And today's show has some relevance in that area.
Yes, so this started maybe 6 weeks ago, and Captain Tom had been doing his thing, and I was stood outside clapping for the NHS, which I thought was great, but I thought, man, there's got to be something more than we can do to show our appreciation to some of these amazing people. So I just put up a quick Facebook post, and I said, I'm keen to help some people out who are in need of helping out. There's not a lot I can do, but I can certainly build a pedal board for someone. And within minutes, we were just swamped with these amazing stories of people who've been out there sort of on the front line. And so I thought, okay, we found a couple of guys that we thought could really use our help.
The two people were picked entirely at random. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't about who was more deserving than anyone else. So please don't get upset about that. They were picked entirely at random. We had a quick chat with them and you can see what happens next. Hello, Patrick.
How's it going?
I think we should let the good people know that this is the second time we've done this because of technology fail on my end.
Yeah. Good when it works.
Unsurprising. So, Patrick, maybe you could tell me a little bit about you and the missus and how you are frontline workers in this whole COVID fun.
I work for Tesco's, pretty customer facing all the time. I had to adjust to a pretty serious situation, but we're all just doing our best, trying to get by and keep safe.
And you're in Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, and the missus is working with the NHS.
She's an emergency nurse practitioner, so she'd be frontline as well.
Wow, that's tough. So when you get home from work every day, do you just not talk about it? Is that how it works?
I don't know. You really just have to keep on going, have a laugh about things because the situation is serious, but life must go on as much as possible.
Well, I mean, it probably doesn't mean very much, but on behalf of everybody watching this, thank you for the work you do. It's a big deal. Okay, so I already know what your main guitar is, but you can remind us what your main guitar is.
It's a Sir, custom Sir.
There she is, and the iridescent purple scratch guard there, I think, is beyond awesome.
It's a bit 80s, but that's where all my favourite music came from. So
yeah, well, on that note, then. I know you're a big Jason Becker fan, so maybe you could tell us a bit about your kind of favourite guitar tones.
Yeah, well, the sort of tone I would be aiming for as a gold standard would be the Dave Lee Roth album, the third album, which is called A Little Ain't Enough.
Yeah,
and Jason Becker's plays on it, and I think it's largely modified sort of Marshall tones, classic 80s tones. So it was 1990. If not the playing, because I'm not that good.
I think you speak for all of us with that. It's all a journey, mate. It's all a journey. Okay, and I can see a pretty serious Black Star behind you there. That's an S1?
It's an S104.
Okay.
The EL34.
I understand that you ejected all your pedals in order to help the missus out. Is that right?
I did. I own one pedal now, and it's an EVHY.
Okay.
And I've got rid of the rest of them. I had quite a collection, but I sold them. So it was really timely, this this little thing.
And what are the kind of essential elements of the pedal end of it for you?
Well, if I had to strip it down to 4, it would be like a good sort of Marshall in a box pedal. I would usually have a delay running all the time, just on like a single repeat. Mm-hmm. A short repeat, just like sort of Paul Gilbert does, just to widen the sound a wee bit and give you a wee bit of rebody. And then for a lead, it would a reverb and a boost.
Yeah.
Then boost that, the reverb and boost.
Something to boost it, okay.
I don't think I've ever had a chorus. Some lovely choruses about.
Yeah.
Good for that 80s sort of sound to give you a bit of space in the sound.
Okay, Patrick, I think we've got enough to put you something cool together.
Brilliant.
And what would be cool is we'll send you the board when it's done. And then maybe you could just record a bit on your phone and let us know how you're getting on.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Awesome, mate. It's great to talk to you.
Yes, thanks a lot.
And thanks again for all the work.
Yep, keep well.
Okay, mate.
Take care.
Cheers, Patrick. Okay, this is a challenge for me. As regular viewers of TPS will know, not exactly in my wheelhouse, that heavy rock sound. However, I do have a real soft spot for it. It's definitely much more close to the stuff that I love compared to the more modern, genty stuff. Anyway, so what do we know about Patrick? We know that he plays a Sir custom guitar, which has a humbucker in the bridge, single coil at the neck, and a Floyd type trem with a locking nut, which is not a guitar that we have. The closest thing we've got is the JEM Junior, so that's what I'll use for that, even though it's not quite the same thing, not in the same ballpark as Patrick's lovely Sir. He's got the Blackstar S104, which is a 100 watt EL34 Rockhead. The closest thing I've got to that is probably the Hughes and Kettner Puretone, which is a fairly straight up hand-wired Marshall type circuit. So we'll use those as our yardsticks and start there. I think the hardest thing to nail is going to be that gain stage. Now, it might be that Patrick's using some of the gain in the Blackstar, which has got really nice gain sounds, but I'm going to try and get it out of pedals for the sake of, well, it is that pedal show. As I understand it, Jason Becker was playing modified Marshalls straight into the amp, no mucking about. Bob Rock wanted it pretty dry and without effects, and a lot of that other stuff was added in post. So for the moment, let's concentrate on that gain sound. Few things I've got in mind. The one that sprang to mind immediately was the JHS Angry Charlie, because we know it's a version of that really brilliant Marshall in a box sound, and if you're going to have a listen to that, you really ought to have a listen to the MI Audio Super Crunchbox, whatever version that is. So we're going to start there. Then I think variations on that. I mean, there are so many gain pedals that we could choose, but I'm gonna try and limit it straight down quickly. So the other one is over here is the Sir Riot Reloaded. Really classic take on that sound. So we'll add that to the mix. I've already picked out Jam Rattler for a bit of ratty type. See what that does. And finally, the Fender Pugilist Distortion, which I really remember liking. I don't know if it's going to be in the same category, but we'll give it a go. So there are 5 gain pedals that we're going to shoot out. Clearly there are loads more. There's Wampler Plexi Drive. There's, my goodness me, there are so many, but you've got to pick something. These are the ones I've picked, so let's have a listen to them. And just to add to that, what's just come to mind actually is there's a double pedal version of this in the Sweet Tea, which adds a Tube Screamer type circuit as well, which I think will give Patrick the boost he wants as well. Simon's just going to grab some general views of me doing this. I thought it would make sense to make it clear that Patrick, as generous as we are, we're not giving you a G2, unfortunately. G2 is here purely to enable me to switch between the gain pedals so I can hear which one we're going to choose for you. So I hope you're not too disappointed, mate. Come back, Dan. All is forgiven. So with all the COVID stuff, I've pulled our regular pedal board to absolute bits. Dan will be probably doing his nut watching this, but so it's just what you don't see in the normal show is underneath here, this calm exterior, lies a maelstrom of panic underneath, with loads of power things so that we can quickly change out pedals. So yeah, I'm just trying to re-establish that sense of calm. By some miracle, there's power to all of them. Doesn't mean they're all going to work. We'll find that out in a minute. Anyway, so the reason that I've got them plugged into G2 like this is because if you stack a load of overdrive pedals together, what you get is the sum total of everything that's happening in their bypass state, and that could be anything from an always-on buffer, I'm not sure if any of these have always-on buffers, to just the general tone suck of going through a bunch of true bypass circuits if they don't have an always-on buffer. So by having them in completely separate, independent, isolated true bypass loops, it means all you're ever hearing is the guitar into one pedal and out to the amp. You're not hearing the sum total of having them all chained together. That's why we use G2 week in, week out on the show. I appreciate this video isn't really about this, but on the top of G2 you've got pre and post gain features. Sometimes when you change a preset, the pre and post gain might be set to different levels. However, just be aware that unless the pre or post gain lights are lit, i.e. the on button, which is blue, they're not in the game. So if you see them changing, ignore them, they're not in the game. All you're hearing is the guitar in, the pedal, the guitar out, the amp. Okay, regular viewers are going to love this. Me on the JEM Junior, as I said earlier, not quite up to Patrick's lovely Sir Custom, but you know, humbucker, a floating locking bridge guitar, which is as close as I've got to it. We've used the Puretone because it's an EL34 amp, pretty fire breathing kind of thing, but is very much in that Marshall vein. And as you can see, we've got the 5 pedals on the board. I've labelled them up beautifully there using gaffer tape and Sharpie. I've set them all up to a similar level, so I'm just going to flick through them, see if we can tweak them to a place that kind of works for me. Let's have a listen. Here's the JEM Junior into the Puretone. Pretty square kind of sound compared to what I'm used to, but let's go with it. It's certainly a strong sound. Awesome. Right. Man, these frets are massive. They all seem really, really heavy in the lower mids and bass to me. Now, that might just be the amp. So I think it's going to be important for Patrick to have some EQ control on board. Straight up as they were set there, I think the Rattler's it's too ratty. It's too much in the high mid range. It sounds great, but it doesn't have that kind of late 80s thing for me. The Pugilist sounds really cool, but the EQ control is somewhat limited. There is a bass boost and a tone control. The Riot, I think, is the one that I like the sound of the most straight out of the box, set how it is currently. But I think it's either going to be the Crunchbox or the Sweet Tea because of that EQ control. So, all right, well, it's a good listen to those anyway. As we put the rest of the board together, I'm going to have a think about which of those is going to be the one. Okay, that was a lot of fun. So we've got a basic distortion sound sorted. What Patrick said he also uses all the time is a delay, single repeat. He likes a bit of reverb for solos, and he's kind of interested in something else to add a bit of width. So I haven't quite got around to thinking about the delay yet. That will be a surprise when we put the pedal board together, finally. Reverb, I think I'm just going to plump for what I know straight away is the Hall of Fame 2, because there's pretty much every kind of reverb you want in there. Plus it's got the mash switch so that when you push it you can get extra parameters of really interesting things happening. So not only is that just a great standard reverb pedal, but it also does a load of mad stuff as well, and is really good fun to play with. So hopefully Patrick will enjoy that. The next kind of end of things is interesting. So as I mentioned in the gain section, it's said that Bob Rock was using Jason playing into the Marshalls pretty dry, so just the sound of the guitar, no delay or ambient effects. That was all added in post. Now clearly this is not the only sound we're going for with this pedal board, but it is our sort of centre point, our yardstick. It's the thing to focus on. And when you listen to that record, when you listen to A Little Ain't Enough by David Lee Roth, there is a widening, so I don't know whether it's double tracked or ADT maybe. There is definitely some modulation here and there, you know, something that I would associate with Vi of the period, with Paul Gilbert, whether it's a subtle bit of flanging or chorus or something like that. I'm not actually sure what it is, and I purposefully haven't done a great deal of research because, as I say, we don't want to just nail it on that one sound. This is a general in that area of hard rock, 80s, late 80s, 90s heavy rock tones. So I'm going to try yet again TC. This was a special edition version of the SCF stereo chorus flanger that they did. It's not quite the same thing as a stereo chorus flanger, but it is a Corona Chorus Plus with some extra presets and stuff, I believe, to get close to some of those sounds. So we should be able to get some of the width, and I want to have a listen to that and see. The other thing I might just try, and this is so new I haven't even taken it out of the box, seal is still there, is the MIMIQ, which is a kind of doubler. So when I was talking about ADT, automatic double tracking earlier, this is the kind of thing that can get you close to some of those sounds as I understand it. So we'll add those to the board and see, with the surprise delay yet to be revealed. All right, I've made a decision. It is the Crunchbox. It was the one that Simon and I both thought sounded the best and certainly has the most powerful EQ, which means Patrick's going to be able to get it right to that place where he likes it the most. Do you agree, Simon?
Yeah.
Excellent. So I want to try these two things. I've literally never ever tried the MIMIQ before. As I said earlier, it's kind of it simulates the effect of automatic double tracking, which is something that happened in studios years ago, where you play the same thing twice and just the tiny variances in your playing would make the thing sound bigger and wider. The MIMIQ does it electronically, digitally, and it can also work in stereo, but it works in mono too, so no sweat there. The Corona Chorus Plus was a 40th anniversary special edition from TC with a couple of extra tone prints, one of which I've just found, which is really cool. So let's have a listen. Crunchbox. Never explain, never apologise. So I won't. Yeah, MIMIQ's cool. Does a job. I think the Corona Chorus is way cooler. For that sort of fattening sound that, to me anyway, really signifies a lot of that mid to late 80s, early 90s heavy rock kind of noises. You're going to have fun for days there, Patrick, messing with some of those really subtle choruses all the way through to full-on like flangey type stuff. So yeah, decision made. 1, 2, let's go on to the next stage. Okay, so we've decided on the MI Audio Crunchbox and the TC Corona Chorus Plus. I said at the beginning that we were going to use the Hall of Fame too, because of the master switch and some of the extra stuff there. If we do that, we then need a separate delay and a boost, so we're over our 4 pedals. So I've had another idea. You're going away. Reverb and delay. I get the impression that Patrick likes it fairly simple in the reverb and delay world. This is really interesting. Really nice reverb and a bunch of different delay modes. Super simple controls, all in one pedal. I'm liking that. I'm liking that. Booster wise, we really like Neil Grimes' NRG Effects stuff, and he makes some really cool mini pedal boosters with various switches on, and the one I've got in mind is conveniently placed over here. It's the Kicker 5457, and what that is a couple of JFET stages, and you've got an internal trimmer for overall output level, but there's gain and then there's bass and treble trims, so you can, depending on whether you want to run it pre-drive or post-drive, Patrick, I'm not sure which. I'll run it post-drive in this example, but if you want to run it pre-drive, you certainly can, to shape either for a kick into your main overdrive or a boost thereafter. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the Crunchbox, the NRG booster, the Corona Chorus, and the Ethereal from Wampler. Let's build a board. Right, this should be relatively simple. I checked all the current draw requirements of each pedal, and there's nothing that takes any more than 100 milliamps, so there's no high current adapters required for the power, which is really good news. In fact, the Ethereal, I think, there's something like 90 milliamps, and the Corona Chorus Plus says 100 milliamps, which means that'll all run off one isolator, Dan's isolator. Gain pedals usually take next to nothing, so that's fine. The next question is pedalboard. So given that this whole thing is about reusing stuff that Dan and I already have, duplicates of what's already here, I wanted to repurpose a pedalboard, one of which came from Joey Landreth's bass player John. I sent him away with a new Pedaltrain in a box and a new pedalboard build, and he left his old one here. And I think this was from the Pedaltrain Nano challenge that Dan and I did. Maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, it's a Nano. We've got a Nano. And we got a Nano Plus. I really want to use the Nano because I think all the pedals will fit on. Pretty much. Just put them upside down so the Velcro doesn't stick. So that would just about fit. Maybe not so much with the side mounted jacks, but anyway, they would almost fit. However, problem with the Pedaltrain Nano series, the feet aren't blooming tall enough for Dan's generator to sit under, so there's not enough clearance and it hits the deck. In fact, on my own one, if you'll excuse me for a second, this is my own Metro 16, which is the same format as the Nano in terms of the feet, which I use for little builds and, you know, little stuff when you have to just put something together quickly. Actually, I had to modify it, look, for that very reason. So the generator fits underneath. So in the interest of expediency, we're not going to do that. What I'm hoping is we shall say cheerio to the Nano for the time being. We'll talk about the Nano Plus, and what I'm hoping is these will all fit on there. space for the generator at the end. It's not the most beautiful solution in the world, but the distributor and the isolator can sit underneath to provide power to the pedals. Right, first step, the way Dan always builds pedal boards, and I shall take his lead, soft side Velcro on the bottom, and then we add what we call pedal board tape to the underside of each pedal. So soft side of any Velcro, but if you use the industrial stuff, it tends to last a bit longer. And if you just put it across the whole length of the board like that, it means you can move stuff around with no trouble. And if it does ever wear out or get knackered, you can just replace it. No biggie. Little squares of 3M dual lock pedal board tape on your pedals like that is enough to hold them down really strongly. In fact, you need to use like a little butter knife just to cut between the soft side Velcro and that to take them off. The benefit of the stuff, if you get the stuff with the plastic back, it'll come off most pedal board finishes cleanly. If you get the stuff with the papery, rubbery back, so this is like a clear plastic back, looks like that. Plastic backing, might do a detail of that in a minute. That stuff comes off pedals really well. If you get the stuff with the rubbery back, the black back, it doesn't, and it leaves horrible stuff on the pedal which you've got to clean off using some sort of white spirit or something. Anyway, right, let's go. Okay, patch cables. We're going to make the Evidence Audio SIS just some really short patch cables for Patrick, which you just see me doing there. Now we are aware that there is some debate about whether solderless patch cables are any good on the interwebs. Mason from Vertex seems to really hate them, but what do we say? I've used them for years and years and years. The only ones that ever go wrong are the ones I don't make properly in the first place. Dan's got them on pro touring boards all the way around the world. I think I'm as likely to solder a cable badly as I am to make one of these badly. And certainly, yeah, they're probably not as robust if you keep unplugging them and plugging them in, but with the screw-in solderless, where the solid core of the cable goes right to the tip and screws in so it can't be pulled out, it's a really good solid connection. Something that Dan doesn't do because he has ninja skills at this kind of thing and I don't. He is a professional after all. I always test them as I make them. So I've got an amp down on the floor here and you'll hear this. That works. That works. Actually, that one seems to work a bit better. Okay, Dan usually does power first and audio second, and that does make some sense on a bigger board where you've got loads of cable runs going everywhere. On a little board like this, I don't think it really matters which way around you do it. So we'll do the power now. Always handy to have some That Pedal Show B-Stock t-shirts around that we wouldn't dream of selling, to have a look at what's underneath. So as I suggested before, there's nothing difficult power-wise on this board, which is really great. So we need to come from the generator, which is on the top. We then need a distributor, which is a high current device. Now, Patrick, if you want to add stuff in the future, which requires any more than 135 milliamps, you can add one of Dan's high current adapters to this. So if you want to power a Strymon device or anything digital that requires more than 135 milliamps, you can just run it out of that. Everything is happy. As it happens, everything on here takes less than 100 milliamps, so we can use Dan's isolator. The generator bone is connected to the distributor bone, and the distributor bone is connected to the isolator bone. a lot of people say it sounds complex. It is perhaps over complex for a small pedal board like this. However, as the rig gets bigger and your pedals expand and you might swap things in and out, and maybe you start running a much bigger board one day, if indeed that's what you do, you'll find a modular power supply like this is great because you can just keep adding to it and taking away as you get bigger and smaller, rather than having a brick that runs out of outlets or doesn't have enough oomph or doesn't do the right voltage or something like that. So longer term, this is a good solution. If I were doing this from scratch, I'd probably use an all-in-one brick, but as I say, we're using stuff that we have here that we can recycle, so that's what's happening. So the distributor will sit on there underneath, and the isolator goes off to all the pedals. So I just need to think a little bit ergonomically about where that's going to go so that all the wires and stuff reach, because it would be great not to have to rewire anything. When you place anything on the board power-wise, it's just worth doing a quick double check at where you've got to get to put things in and out. So for example, on the distributor here, the mains power that comes in needs to plug in there. The wires need to come out of there, and I might need to get to them to replace them. So if you put it right up against here and you can't get this out, or you get the point. I've done it so many times. Similarly, up on top here, you know, your IC needs to go in there. I appreciate this is really simple stuff, but when you're gassing so hard to get your pedal board finished and in there so you can start blasting, it's those things you forget. I've done it. I put a whole board together and gone to plug the IEC in and gone, oh dear, I can't get the IEC in because I put it up next to a thing. This is my special distributor and isolator tool. I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it seems to work quite well. So these little things you just do that with. You pull it out of there because we don't need these ones. So that's fine, we can reuse these for another day. All we need is 4 out of the isolator to go to each thing. Now of course what I should do is make them nice and short so that they're all super tidy. Where does that one need to go to? That one only needs to go to there, so I'm going to remake that one. And once again, you know, if this seems fiddly to you compared with a all-in-one brick, I was going to make the point again, as the pedal board gets bigger and your needs change, this will grow with you. Also, by having your centres of potential RF interference separate across the board, the potential for noise is lessened as well, which of course is a big deal. Right, power done. I'm semi-confident that's going to work. Let's put it there. Got an IC down here. Right, Ethereal on, Corona Chorus on, NRG on, Crunchbox not on. I think I know what that is. Boom. So, moment of truth, isn't it? Shall we go and plug it in? Clearly well outside of my comfort zone, but blimey O'Reilly, some good sounds in there. Patrick, I hope you dig this. What I hope is that there's enough tweakability in there for Patrick to really get into it and sculpt that to what he needs. We'll get it packaged up in the post. Can't wait to hear what he thinks. Dan, what did you think?
So Shreddy McShreddy pants on the JEM. Very nice. Very nice. But the board is fantastic. That Crunchbox, always impressive. But that really specific sound.
It didn't occur to me while we were doing it that I'd actually picked the Corona chorus. Literally did not. I swear to God, it did not even occur to me that that's what I'd picked, because I was so transfixed on trying to get him that like wide and sort of tri-chorusy sound.
Sure.
So anyway, with apologies, I'm sure there'll be great hilarity online about that. But there we are.
Excellent. Okay.
Let's have a look at yours.
Okay, my turn. Now, this one's going to be short and sweet. Mick's done all the heavy lifting in this video, but I am going to include a couple of pedalboard building tips that I think work really well and are quite important. Okay, let me introduce you to Keith Willers. Now, Keith is an amazing guy. I had a great conversation with him. Keith works with homeless people, and just talking about what the whole situation has meant for him and his clients, and you know, what he's had to work through, and it's been, yeah, pretty amazing. So I wanted to do something really special for Keith. Now, Keith is a bass player, so I reached out to a good friend of mine who's pretty good on big guitar. So yes, I gave my dear friend Paul Turner from Jamiroquai a call.
Hey mate, how you doing?
Yeah, great, thank you, buddy. Quick question for you. I'm putting together a pedal board, and I was wondering, if you had to choose 4 types of pedals for a board, what would they be, and what order would you put them in?
So for me, the 4 pedals, or the 4 types of pedals I would go for, especially for a funk gig and something that's kind of got lots of versatility, they would be a fuzz pedal, an octave pedal. That would probably be my first choice, an octave pedal. Fuzz pedal, octave pedal, envelope filter, and then I'd go probably phaser. And the order that I would put them in is, the order's important really, because it's how they react going into each other. You know, should you want to use one into the other for a dual sound, and you can experiment with that, but my favorite is going octave pedal first, into the fuzz into the envelope, and then ending on the modulation thing with the phaser at the end.
Thank you, Paul. You absolute superstar, you. We'd actually planned to have Paul and Rob Harris from Jamiroquai to come on the show, but then COVID happened, and, you know. But as soon as things do get better normal. We will get the boys down because what they do is absolutely incredible. Okay, so as per Paul's advice, on the board we have the 3-leaf audio Chromatron envelope filter, the ZVEX Woolly Mammoth fuzz, the Foxrox Octron 3 octaver, and the Walrus Audio Lillian phaser. I know we're only supposed to have 4 pedals on there, but I did put the TC Electronic Polytune on there. It's a tuner, it doesn't really count. So it's a pretty simple build, this one. Everything fits on a Pedaltrain Metro 16. I've chosen the 3-leaf audio Chromatron filter. When we first used this, actually it was Paul Turner who suggested this pedal to me. He started using these and basically replaced the Neutron on his board. We're both big Neutron fans, and yeah, he suggested me to check it out, and I think it's amazing. So yeah, I knew that Keith would really like that. Now the Octron is really interesting because it's not like a traditional OC3. It's more like you know, an octave divider. And also has the ability to have a little bit of like octave fuzz in there. So I thought that'd be a really cool thing with a bass. The Lillian phaser I've chosen because of the mix control. So, you know, essentially with bass, it's like, you know, just being able to blend things on top with bass is really important. And the Woolly Mammoth, you know, basically a big muff that's got extra tone controls on there. So just being able to shape the sound, you know, for a fuzz and bass is essential. And I had to include a tuner because, you know, it's a pedalboard, needs a tuner. Now we're getting into pedalboard Tetris. Okay, it's a really interesting skill to develop, working out just where to put the pedals on a board because they're all different sizes. You know, it's not like we're using, you know, 4 Boss pedals. They come in all shapes and sizes, and just working out ergonomically where to put them, it's quite a skill. The only problem I came across was I had to put the Woolly Mammoth behind the 3-leaf audio envelope filter. Now, one problem that you'll run into if you do this is that if you're stepping over a pedal to get to one behind, it's really easy to hit the controls on the pedal in the front and knock things out of kilter. So what I did, which is what we do sometimes, is I made a thing called a pedal riser, and it's just a piece of timber, you know, 10 mil or so thick, that sits underneath the pedal behind, and it just lifts it up enough so that when you put your foot over the pedal in front, you're not going to hit any of those controls. So yeah, it's really simple. Just cut it out relatively the same size, and you know, sand it down. If you run out of spray paint the way that I did, you can use a Sharpie and, you know, just color in around all the edges. A bit of hook Velcro on top and some dual lock underneath, and you've got yourself a pedal riser. So did the power for this one, pretty simple. The Metro 16 has just enough space underneath it for a generator with some cable ties. So yeah, pretty simple. All Keith needs to do is plug in his IEC cable underneath and the board is powered and good to go. Okay, the keen-eyed among you will notice that there's something a bit different on the board, okay? I had to change the position of the Octron as per Paul's recommendation. Now, this leads me to be able to talk about something which is one of my pedalboard peeves. And it has to do with cable length, you know, whether it's the power cables or patch cables. We've all seen those incredible pedalboard builds where everything, the cables are cut to the absolute millimeter and everything just looks amazing. And they've got all the little cable ties and, you know, and they're great. And I've built those boards myself. And they're great fun to do, and it's awesome to make them look amazing. And if you're going on tour and the pedals are set, you know, and you'll never change them, brilliant. But inevitably, we change things around. And there's nothing more frustrating on a pedal board than having a patch cable that's just a little bit too short, okay? If you've got to then go back and, you know, make a new patch cable. Okay, for example, I've got this purple plexi, okay, and I want to boost it in the front with a red Rooster jam pedals troll booster, okay. hear the flapping. It's got a little zip on the back. Right. So what do? Hey, I make the shortest patch lead possible. Plug them in. Boom. Perfect, right? And that's fantastic. Except now I want to try something a bit different. I'm going to plug in a Kingsley Squire. You know, I've got top mounted jacks now, and that's not going to work. Also, the Squire's a little bit bigger. I'm going to have to move things around. You know, so we're back to playing pedalboard Tetris. But if I had a patch cable that was a bit longer, right, boom, into the, right, no problem. Now, why is it important? One of the things that it can actually be detrimental to your board is having tension on cables, right? So I've made the shortest patch lead in the world. I've got that going out of the rooster into the pedal plexi, and I've got them, set apart, or anyway, that tension between in the cable, and this is not a soldered or solderless discussion. Any tension like that, whether it's from DC cables or patch cables or whatever, eventually is going to cause problems. Okay, so when you're doing patch cables, make sure you factor in that, things change and you might want to change something else. That's really important. Now, the reason I was able to quite easily move the order of the pedals is because I'd left enough room in the DC cables. Now, luckily, I hadn't actually made the patch cables yet, but I'd left enough room in the DC cables that I could quite easily change the order without any issues. So for the patch cables, I used the Evidence Audio screw-in solderless system. Everything went together perfectly. There's no tension on any of the patch leads, and this board shall be reliable and ready to go. However, it'll be quite simple for Keith to swap things in and out as he chooses. And this is what it sounds like.
Oh wow, bass.
Bass.
I didn't see that coming. Nice choice. We'll get loads of emails and questions about bass stuff now. And so cool that Paul Turner was there. And in true kind of surprise style, Paul has sent a message for Keith. Here's that.
And so, hey Keith, I hope you really enjoy the pedals, man. I'm sure Dan's going to put them together in a nice, cool way. And it sounds like you've got a nice little selection there to enjoy. And other than that, I'm sure I join everybody in saying thank you very much for your work. Respect. Cheers, man. Enjoy.
Brilliant. Well, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you're not too disappointed if you didn't get chosen. But there's some great pedalboard building advice in there. Anyway, one thing we did do is there's some other people that had emailed in and whatever, and so we have sent out another 5 just pedals and presents just to say thank you to some of these amazing people.
Yes, and thank you to all the key workers out there, anyone who's out there dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. Dan and I are very shielded from it. We can carry on with our businesses pretty much. And I think we don't see the reality of it day to day. So thanks to everybody who really does and who is dealing with that on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, you are an amazing bunch of inspirational people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's the show. Hope you enjoyed that. Massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe.
Anderson's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
Brisbane, Australia.
Would be Pedal Empire of Brisbane, Queensland.
And the links below, they go to.
Sweetwater in the US. Click that stuff and it helps us.
Yes, also, massive thank yous to everyone that has gone to thatpedalshowstore.com, grab t-shirts and D&M drives and mugs and all the rest of the stuff. And thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Stay safe. Have a great week and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Patrick here. This is just a quick video to say thanks to Mick Taylor for lending me this guitar here. Didn't realise it was his boat, but it's much appreciated. Thanks, Mick. But mostly, I just want to say thanks for this to TheGigRig, Dan, Mick, and any associated manufacturers. Much appreciated, and it's really brightened up this period. So, thank you very much. Cheers.
I've just received my pedalboard from Dan and Mick, and I'm absolutely blown away by the generosity of you guys. It means so much to me to have something like this as a thank you for what I do as a job, and I just can't wait to get out there and gig it and hear what it sounds like through my rig. I'm just so thankful for what you've done for me. So Dan and Mick, thanks again. Cheers.